Ah, yeah, it's new Ninjago season day, baby. I don't usually do these kinds of off-the-cuff first impressions videos because this is not an actual review of Dragon's Rising Season 3, I want to make that clear. We only have half of the season out so far. The second half is who knows how many months away. I literally just got done watching this thing. Like, I still have, like, the video player up with the episode finished, like, on my phone right now. These are extremely early and subject to change impressions. So when I end up making a big review of Season 3, and my opinions inevitably have some kind of little shift around in that video, if I see anyone in the comments of that going, "But Krusty, you said this 8 months ago," I'm obliterating you with my eye lasers. Okay, so Dragon's Rising Season 3 came out today and I watched it. What do I think? It's fine. I think it's the worst thing to come out of Dragon's Rising so far, but it's not nearly as bad as, like, some of original Ninjago's low points. The big thing with this season for me, I keep calling it a season, but it's a part of a season, which I'll get into that. I think that's stupid. But I think the big issue with this batch of episodes is just how unfocused it feels. I like these previous Dragon's Rising seasons a lot, but a problem I do take with the pacing of them is how they juggle so many different plot lines at once. I'm pretty sure this was mentioned in Parachuting Kitten's Dragon's Rising critique, and I think she put the nail on the head pretty good. They just kind of jump from plotline to plotline to plotline to plotline. You don't really get dedicated episodes with a through line that starts and ends with this show. It's just kind of feels really all over the place a lot of the time. And original Ninjago had this problem too, but Dragon's Rising is a lot more ambitious. And this was fine in the earlier days of the show, but I feel like as we've gained more characters and plot lines and threads to be juggling, the Dragon's Rising formula is starting to be a little stretched thin. I'm not sure if that made any sense, but like, the administration episode is a good example of this. I know it's not in Season 3 at all, but this episode that's so focused on the administration keeps cutting back to Wildfire and Kai. And I do like those Wildfire and Kai moments a lot, but I can't help but feel like it's just a bit distracting with everything being paced like that. It feels very scattergun. It feels like we're just going from thing. And I mention this because I feel like apart from like in episode 3 and the final 2 episodes, that's what this whole season felt like. Sorry, part, not full season. It really felt like it couldn't find a central focus. It all felt very scattergunned and disorganized. It didn't really have as much of a hook as the first 2 seasons did. And because of that, the wealth of what are in paper good ideas across all of these scattered plot lines never really get a chance to shine. And it just all amounts to this batch of episode that really doesn't feel like it has any kind of focus or identity. It's just more Dragon's Rising. Now, I know I've made it out like I absolutely hate this thing, but I really don't. I enjoyed my time with it, I thought it was decently entertaining, and there is a lot of good stuff here. Like, Aaron and Sora's friendship, I think, generally was handled quite well. I do wish Sora did get more of a chance to apologize about the fake spinjitzu thing. I get that Aaron did overreact to that and acknowledge that, and that was really good in itself, but I still would have liked for Sora to at least be able to finish her apology before Aaron made his. But beyond that, I think the way Aaron and Sora reconciled was pretty well handled. This show from the get-go has done a really good job at making me care about this friendship, and this season was no exception to that. Although I do have some qualms with the fact that she went with Aaron and Raz at the end. I get why she did it, she wanted to be there for her friend, and I think that's a good motivator to get her on. But like, genuinely, if I'm wrong about this, please correct me in the comments, but like, does Sora even know what Aaron and Raz want to do? Is she on board with reversing the merge? Like, I don't know, I feel like Sora ditching the ninja to join Aaron and Raz on paper was a really good idea. Very, very interesting direction to take the story, but I feel like it was a bit flimsy. I don't know, I feel like a bit more effort could have been put into making this decision from Sora feel a bit more believable and earned, if that makes sense. I still think on paper it's a good idea. I think there's a lot of potential for having Aaron, Sora, and Raz now all traveling together. I'm interested to see what they do with it, but it was awkward. I think it was a little awkward. But what wasn't so awkward was Aaron's character journey with Raz. Taking bits and pieces of Raz's advice, but ultimately remembering to hold on to his kindness. Aaron's character arc was really good here. The search for his parents wasn't so much. Man, I'm sorry. That reveal that his parents were dead did nothing for me. I think part of it is the fact that they just come across these random gravestones and are just like, yup, the parents are dead. And it doesn't help that, one, we didn't know Aaron's parents' names before this point, so seeing their names on a gravestone really didn't do all that much for me. And 2, I can't read Ninjago, so until Aaron outright said, I had no clue if that was his parents' graves. I was just sitting there thinking, are these his parents' graves? Is he gonna confirm that? And with us only being shown the gravestones themselves with nothing else beyond that, it did not come as a surprise at all that they aren't actually dead.
Dead? I know for a fact that Aaron Kid's parents are alive.
No kidding, man, it's Ninjago. No one ever
Hello?
dies. Like, Ninjago can only pull this not showing the bodies thing so many times before I completely distrust its every move of this. This show desperately needs to stop doing death fake outs. It doesn't work anymore. Everyone sees through them whenever they try it. It's completely fake, forced holodrama, and it does nothing for the viewer. This is the type of stuff that I could only see working on someone who has literally never watched a single Ninjago thing before going into this season. So yeah, all of the drama surrounding Aaron's parents dying felt incredibly forced and unnecessary because they obviously weren't dead. And it's the same deal with Roby and Wildfire with the whole Roby decaying thing. He obviously wasn't going to die. Nothing was going to come of this. Nothing did come from it. It was completely wasted screen time. Like, man, what would you have preferred? More forced melodrama with the ninja arguing and whining about dead guys who obviously aren't dead? Or would you have rather seen the Forbidden Five actually be fleshed out? Yeah, these guys suck. These guys are so underwhelming. I was pretty excited to see these guys finally getting their center stage in this season. Season 2 did a pretty good job of setting them up. I figured it was going to be another Season 1 deal like with Raz, where their introductory season has them be a thing in the background, just enough to get you intrigued in it. Then their big season as the center stage villains gets you really invested in them as characters. That moment never came for the 5. They were just as boring as they were at the start of the season as they were at the end. They have basically no personality or individuality to them. They're just boring, man. They're just boring evil guys for the ninja to punch. Like, I think in terms of having this show's villains, trading Raz for these bums was such a downgrade. But at the very least, Raz was still goated in this season, like he always has been. He's continuing to rise up the ranks of my favorite Ninjago characters. I love Raz. Thunderfang was slightly more interesting. He at least has an actual motivation of jealousy going for him. But he was barely in it, man. Who knows, maybe this was our introductory chapter to Thunderfang, and Season 3 Part 2 will be his big moment, where he gets to have a couple fight scenes with the ninja and then get booted out of the show with zero character development. The Moro episode I thought was pretty good. It was one of the few episodes of this season with an actual focus throughout the whole thing, and I think it really shined for that. It's unfortunate though that Moro looks like total crap. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened with this guy. Everything else in this show is so jaw-droppingly gorgeous. And then you got Moro over here looking like he's from a PS2 game. I mean, Ninjago Possession will have dropped 10 years ago this year, and he looks infinitely better in that. What happened, man? What happened here? I think what they did with the Departed Realm is really cool. Retrofitting it into being a gateway to something else entirely that they don't specify at all was really smart. I always didn't like how Ninjago suddenly got a very clear afterlife realm, and I think going back on that decision was a great choice. And letting Moro be the person who guides lost souls to the real Great Beyond was a really smart move. Although Moro's characterization itself, I'm not all that big on. Nothing Moro did in this episode damages his character or retroactively makes me less invested in him before this. Don't get me wrong, this is not any kind of character assassination. I just feel like he was a bit sterile here, man. He felt too nice. For example, in Day of the Departed, even after Moro had redeemed himself and joined the good side, he always had this mischievous streak to him. You know, once he'd overcome his destructive pride and ego, he just kind of turned into this like Roderick from Diary of the Wimpy Kid-esque figure, and I think that was fun. Like, remember in Day of the Departed how he was just messing with and trolling the ninja and Wu while still helping them? Little things like that are what makes a redeemed Moro so fun to me, and I really don't think that Dragon's Rising was able to capture that too well. As it stands here, he just feels like a bit uncharacteristically nice about everything. And I think if Moro shows up again, that is something I would like to see changed a bit. Still, not a bad reintroduction for the character though, just felt like something was a bit missing with him. I know I already mentioned Aaron and Sora's friendship being really well handled, but Season 3 Episode 8 was really good. That was an awesome episode. Also, wasn't this season meant to fix Zane? Given that, like, Doc was very open about saying that, you know, Zane is in a bad place, he needs fixing, that's valid criticism, we see that. Given that Zane was all over the marketing for this thing and got a bunch of minifigures, I was kind of thinking this was going to be Zane's Dragon's Rising Season 2 Kai moment, where after a bunch of years of flanderization and neglect from the writers, he finally becomes like a good character again, with things going for him. And I kept waiting for that to start picking up, and it never did. Zane is still just as boring and wooden as he's ever been. He's marginally better than he was in Dragon's Rising Season 2. He doesn't drop the word cringe at any point in this season. But being less bad is barely a praise. He's still boring and static and robotic, and these first 10 episodes have done nothing to fix the problems of the character, in my opinion. If other people like him more here, then that's good, but I'm not convinced at all by this. Also, Pixel being back is nice for the people who like Pixel. I am not one of the people who like Pixel, so this didn't really do much to me. You know, I could still only really describe Pixel as being Zane's love interest and not much else beyond that. I hope the character does get some kind of major revitalization someday, but at the minute, it is more of the same. If you thought Pixel was a boring character in the original show, you'll think she was boring here as well. Those are most of my thoughts, but there's one more thing I really want to get off my chest. The Part 1, Part 2 structure sucks, and has gotten worse and worse with every single season. It increasingly feels like we're not getting one 20-episode long season a year, but two awkward 10-episode long ones. That both simultaneously have the job of being one half of a bigger 20-episode long season, but also have the job of being their own self-contained 10-episode long narrative. They're trying to have their cake and eat it too, and it just doesn't work, man. Either just do actual dedicated 20-episode long seasons, or go back to two 10-episode long seasons a year. I do not care which of these routes they end up taking, I'd be fine with either. But this current solution of trying to do both and succeeding at neither just isn't working. Now, I get that this is something that's probably decided on by, like, the higher-ups at LEGO and distributors like Netflix and stuff, so this isn't really an actionable criticism by the Ninjago writers. Which I do get. I'd understand if this doesn't change, but I kinda wish it would, as it's making the stories less cohesive and satisfying. That's about all of the stuff I can think of off the top of my head. Sorry if this came off as a little negative. I did enjoy the season. I want to clarify that I sat down, I watched all of the episodes in basically like 2 sittings, and I enjoyed my time with this. It's not bad. It just didn't really do much to carry the momentum the other two had for me. It's definitely the worst thing to come out of Dragon's Rising so far. And these are early impressions, who knows, maybe my mind will change with like a rewatch in time or something, but like, yeah, those are the early impressions.